Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm trying a different recording method. Hopefully, the sound is a little better. Um, so, this is Communist Propaganda Methods, book from 1960. And I'm going to start chapter 1 now. I'm going to have to do this chapter in probably a few different parts because it's really long. Hey, here we go. Indoctrination within the party. The communists of Czechoslovakia are to be the same as the communists in the Soviet Union. We shall imprint upon the ranks of our party the spirit of the 19th Congress of the USSR. The USSR is the example for us to follow in all aspects. Let us learn from the Soviet communists the methods of ideological work. The period immediately following the February 1948 communist coup d'etat in Czechoslovakia was characterized by an expansion of the Communist Party apparatus. In the area of propaganda and indoctrination, the regime was faced with the organizational task of enlarging its propaganda base. To accomplish such an expansion, it was first necessary to build up a schooling system for party propagandists. However, the regime did not embark on its full-scale ideological Sovietization program immediately. The party's preoccupation with the economic task of liquidating the capitalist sector of the economy and the police task of disposing with enemies within and without the party prevented the regime from undertaking a comprehensive Sovietization of human minds prior to 1952. When the 19th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union was convened, the dismissal of the party's Secretary General, Rudolf Slansky, in September 1951, and his subsequent execution, accompanied by a purge of his party machine, had an adverse effect on the organizational and ideological consolidation of the party. Moreover, the low ideological consciousness of rank and file party members and the bottleneck in the party propaganda machine created by a critical lack of propagandists meant that the party could not afford to start a mass ideological drive immediately upon taking power. Finally, the weakening of the Cominform apparatus had the effect of postponing any ideological offensive. The foreign source of indoctrination and propaganda guidance. The main organ of propaganda planning in Czechoslovakia is the party's Central Committee Secretariat, Propaganda and Agitation Section, Agitprop. The highest source of authority in this area is, however, located in the Propaganda and Agitation Section of the Secretariat of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. The instrument of the Secretariat of the CPSU formerly was the Cominform, which had its seat in Bucharest, Romania. The Cominform apparatus, which included 3 members of the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia during its period of activity, guided and coordinated the propaganda work of the CPCS. Since the Cominform was distrusted by Moscow after the expulsion of the Communist Party of Yugoslavia in 1948, its activities became marginal. Apprehensive that the apparatus was infiltrated with internationalists, Moscow preferred to exercise direct control. I'm going to take a sip of water. The Cominform continued, however, to play the role of mentor over the Czechoslovak propaganda output until early in 1951. Its official newspaper for Lasting Peace for People's Democracy, published in Bucharest, criticized the press of the CPCS in 1948 for its lack of propaganda articles, historical works on the CPSU, and works on the CPCS itself. The official periodical of the CPCS party functionaries, Funktionär, pleaded guilty to the Cominform paper's accusations and promised to fulfill its mission according to Cominform direction. Kind of sounds like Common Core. Okay. In December 1950, the Cominform paper sharply censored the official daily paper of CPCS, Rudy Pravo, of various shortcomings, including political and theoretical mistakes and impotence in exposing the warmongers and the treacherous activities of the socialists of the right. Ruda Pravo hastened to correct its mistakes, quote unquote, and on January 17, 1951, published an article in which it approved with delight the criticism of the Cominform organ. The paper stated that the criticism was the inestimable value for the leaders of the party. This illustration points to the full subservience of the CPCS and its dependency on foreign directives. After 1952, the primary open sources for which the CPCS drew its general line as to how to carry the Sovietization process were the resolutions and proceedings of the Congresses of the CPSU. There was, however, no formal channel of command. Moscow's line was simply followed by the CPCS because of an unconditional acceptance of the thesis that the CPSU was the guiding force, what the Czechs termed the teacher, of all the communist movements. The strict adherence to this thesis was a result of the party discipline of the Moscow-trained CPCS leaders. The discipline reinforced by the perpetual fear of falling from Moscow's grace. Therefore, if one were to look for Moscow's formal control of Czechoslovakia, one would look in vain. As Alexander Dalin noted about the pattern of Soviet rule in Eastern Europe, Moscow had striven for maximum effective but not formal control. Thus, the effective control and guidance of future policies was facilitated by the total allegiance of the CPCS leadership to the CPSU. Perhaps nothing better expresses the totality of this fealty than a statement of the late party leader Clement Gottwald. Long before the Cold War started, he declared, "Our highest revolutionary headquarters is indeed Moscow. We go to Moscow to learn how to strangle you, the patriots of Czechoslovakia." Since the function of the Communist Party congresses is inter alia, quote, to determine the tactical line of the party on basic questions of current policy, end quote, a resolution of a CPSU Congress served as a political compass in the hands of the CPCS Congresses and conferences. Even Congress decisions dealing with the domestic situation in the USSR had, of necessity, a direct bearing on the policies of the Moscow loyal communist parties. The 19th Congress of October 1952 had a special impact on the spread of the ideological Sovietization of Czechoslovakia. For at the Congress, Stalin declared the countries of the people's democracies to be the shock brigades, quote unquote, in the fight against the non-communist world. These shock brigades, in the form of people's democratic countries, made it easier for the USSR, according to Stalin, to quote unquote wage its fight. Shortly after the Congress, the Prime Minister of Czechoslovakia, Antonin Zapotocki, quoted Stalin's pronouncement and emphasized that Czechoslovakia must assume the role of a shock brigade, quote unquote. But at that time, the party leaders in Czechoslovakia were fully aware that the country was by no means ready to fulfill this task, since ideologically the regime was far from consolidated. Czechoslovakia shall not be a second Yugoslavia, declared President Klement Gottwald to the National Conference of the CPCS in 1952. In order to fulfill the role Stalin assigned to the people's democracies, however, the party's ideological level in Czechoslovakia had to be substantially improved. If there was to be any chance of reaching the masses, it was necessary that the offensive start within the party itself. A general tightening of the Soviet reign was evidenced by the new party by laws adopted at the conference, which were designed to bring the party even closer to the glorious Communist Party of the Soviet Union. These bylaws stated, the primary task of the CPCS is to erect a socialist social order in accordance with the rich experiences of the CPSU, to educate in the spirit of socialist patriotism and proletarian internationalism, to educate towards faithfulness and friendship to the Soviet Union. President Gottwald described these bylaws in an attempt to apply creatively the results of the 19th Congress to our conditions. And that was a quote. He also stressed the impact of the Congress on ideological schooling. All right. I don't really have too many comments yet. Just talking about the Communist Party structure in Czechoslovakia. And we will continue next time on the next page. Thanks for joining me, everybody. And we're going to learn and reflect and compare this to what's happening today in the United States, because I think these types of things are happening in the United States today. Lots of propaganda. All right, I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.